Welcome everyone. Supervision formula for people management. That is the topic of the day which we will be talking in this presentations. Supervision formula for people management. So we'll talk about a brief history altogether, the behavioral styles of the supervisors, how are the scoring abilities. Now we'll talk about the characteristics of supervisors and their scores around it, review profile, and establish a desk group if possible. Now desk and supervisions, how do we go across it? Two important strengths. What are the just as a supervisions, how do we go around it? What are the most two important strengths? If we can note it down. Then comes what are the difficulties, your greatest challenges, one biggest challenge that you would love to overcome. And the third one is been an area of development that you want to acquire altogether, an area of development which probably you're lacking your strength or probably is your weak point. So two important strengths of yours, one of the greatest difficulties that you're trying to overcome, probably the barriers that is coming around it, and an area or probably a perspective or a vertical that you want to imbibe, learn the skills, learn the tricks, or which might add on to your strength or probably the weakness that you want to eliminate altogether. So making successful presentation to the boss. Now, one of those examples that comes around is to develop ways to approach a boss depending upon behavioral style. As a supervisor, how do you go around it? Is the way to approach the boss. Maybe let's say you're asking for a raise altogether. Scenario is you have thought of an amazing project that is going to revolutionize child welfare. Absolutely, it's a proxy situation that becomes around it. You must now present your idea to your boss with a mission to convince them that it should be as implemented as the best practice in your office altogether. Now, how would you like to impress your boss with this presentation? Remember, your boss was a driver, an influencer, a supporter, and a calculator. This is a person whom you want to impress upon it. As a driver who is going to lead that change, as an influencer who is going to issue the dictates from the offices, as a supporter who is going to take care of the things, probably the resources, and as a calculator to understand what are the return on investment or the benefits are concerned. So, as a successful presentation to the boss, how do you go around it? So, in a dimensions, let us understand for supervisor the next dimension comes around it. There are only 8 things, that of commanding, pioneering, energizing, affirming, inclusive, humble, deliberate, and resolute. Now, these are the parameters of things. Now, we what have been talking around it. You need to have a commanding position, probably pioneering, energizing. You need to know your things intimately. You need to understand the proxies, the process, and the cons of the technology, the processes, the project that you're talking about. You need to understand the resolution. You should, at the same time, you should be humble enough to admit any of the inputs that comes around it, any of the suggestions that is being shown to you or thrown at you. Probably you need to understand, be inclusive of everybody's viewpoint, and that's the only way to improve your supervision skills. Remember, we are looking at supervisions for a greater people management. Now, how do we go across this? If we talk about those 8 things, there are something called a fast-paced or outspoken. These are completely in opposite to one another. Let's say pioneering is a person who is moving ahead with things, whereas humbleness is a person, probably the qualities where you are imbibing inputs from everybody's end also, but pioneering might not be as leading from the front. It's been very fast paced and outspoken, whereas the humble is very cautious and reflective. Let me give you another thing about resolution. Sorry, this one is a part of the resolution where it is questionable and skeptical. It is you are thinking and rethinking twice, thrice before you are actually enacting upon it. Whereas an affirming is accepting and warm. It is absolutely on the basis, definitely you're confident about it, affirming, accepting, and going ahead with it altogether. The disk assets. So, what are those 8 aspects of disk? Is what has been noted out here. We have, I repeat, pioneering, energizing, affirming, inclusive, humble, deliberate, resolute, commanding, and these are in diagrammatically in difference of one another, and that is what disk is all about. It all in appropriately opposite to one another's function as the case might be. Let us understand the multi-dimensional leadership. What is your current leadership style? What style would you like to develop? Remember, I opened my presentation as in what are your two strengths that you want to go around it. Two strengths that you're good at it, because until and unless you have something good at you, you will not be able to survive. Then probably my second question, what was the challenge that you want to overcome? There are certain things probably in everybody's life, there are certain things which we are finding it difficult to overcome or uh, control altogether. That's the second question that I wanted to put about it. But the most important thing was, what is it one thing that you want to learn or unlearn, or probably what are the things, skills that you want to pick? And that is what multi-dimensional leadership is all about. It as a supervisors, what is your current style? As a supervisor, what would you like to develop in future courses of time? And that is what we are requiring to look at it, the multi-dimensional leadership style. So let us understand supervision's definition. A good supervision's definition is a process where an individual with a specific knowledge, expertise, or skills provides support while overseeing and facilitating the learning of another individual with a focus on practice that directly impacts the outcome for their family. And this is what an effective supervision definition is all about. It. Remember, a supervisor is a person who has the requisite skills, the requisite expertise, the requisite exposure to provide support and probably inculcate those knowledge, those expertise onto his or her employees, team members, so that they can focus and probably practically have a focused outcomes approaches, outcome which is beneficial not only to them but to their organization, not only to their organization but to their families too. And that is what effective supervision will always be meant around it. Supervisors competencies is all about leadership, communication and staff relationship building, team building and team orientation, staff development, data and outcomes as the case might be. So supervisors competencies, how do you come across this? Communication, staff relationship building, team building and team orientation. Now these are the competencies that is required for a supervisor for a good people management skills. If they are not, if these things are missing, probably they will not become an effective supervisor. They should have some leadership skill. They should be clear. There should be a clarity in their communication, in their relationship building, the team building and the team orientation. They should look about the staff development, the data and the outcomes that comes across it, as the case might be if you look into it. So benefits of staffing, what are the benefits? Individual staffing, group staffing, safety staffing, knowing the team desk profile. Remember, the desk profile are the 8 characteristics that comes around it with individual things. If we can go across it, once you understand what are the profile a person belongs to, and then only will you understand what are the benefits that can be accrued or given to them, the benefits which they will actually value as an individual, as a group, as a safety stopping that comes around it. So that is what the benefits for a supervisor, for an effective staffing for a supervisor is all about it. Let us understand the key staffing component. Now, this is where you need to understand the operation of a company, operation, a daily operation, a weekly operation, a monthly operation. So, where are the workloads? Which are the days, which are the areas where there are more attentions to be required or less attention to be required, as the case might be. So you need to assess them, plan them, and probably, I repeat, probably give your intervention as on when on them. So this is where you need to understand, as a supervisor, you need to understand the workload and the availability of your manpower and match them up so that everybody is coming with a win-win solution. The people are happy, the organization is happy, and the work has been done without any pain points to anyone. So let us understand the staffing tool. Now, this is very important. What is the staffing tool for a supervisor? The supervisor must ensure safety for all his or her employees. Absolutely safety first. There is no compromise over the safety. Next, what the supervisor will be looking into it as a step to build up a vibrant team is having a sense of stability or permanency, as the case might be. So, if we can look into stability and permanency, people will come will start feeling comfortable in their shoes. So once they look into it, they are already been into seen as a well-being, a family role and a voice. This is if you have an equitability in the company, in the team, people will voice their opinion. People will find their voices in unison. People will identify themselves with the organization. That will is essential to build loyalty and probably build a long-term view. So these are essential tools for staffing. Now let us understand group staffing format first and foremost. Now till now we were talking about the individual stuffing format as a group. Now discuss the players who gels with whom. There are people with whom some people are very comfortable, but there are people with whom some people are not actually comfortable. So can we form those teams which are comfortable with each other? Describe the incident. Now when I say incident, it's the event, the place, the time, which needs to be addressed altogether. So how do we go across it? So describe the incident, review the risk, the protective factors, take into consideration what can go wrong, and how do I mitigate those wrong things with the due format. Review prior intervention, discuss how to reduce future risk, discuss a focus for inputs from the team as the case might be. This is what we are looking for it. Discuss how to reduce future risk, discuss the focus of input, make them make them part of the process, make them an integral part as to contribute towards the solution as the case might be. Your interventions every now and then should be percolated, should be transparent for every of the team members as in group staffing format. And then you will see the group is delivering and delivering a good result, a decent result. Now, let me give you a social work supervisors according to Kadushin's conceptual framework. Remember that we are talking about it. It might be the supervisor as a team person or probably as a manager, or let's say it can be a coach altogether. Now, this is what Kadushin's conceptual framework says. There are three things that comes around it. As an administrative supervisor, supervisors as a managers if you go around it. As an admin fellow, the supervisor becomes a manager. As an educational fellow, it becomes a coach altogether. And as a supportive supervision becomes a team member. Then the conceptual framework, a supervisor has to play the role of a manager, the coach, and the team leader, as the case might be. Now, why? Because they have their roles being present as an admin supervisor, as an educational supervisor, as a supportive supervisor from different background, different point of view. They will be acting as a team leader, a coach, or a manager. So this is what we need to understand with the passage of time. You need to be very sure what are you looking at it. Are you being an admin supervisor? Are you being an educational supervisor? Probably educating it, probably acquiring skill or imparting skills to your employees and enhancing their potentialities to a further extent. Are you the supportive supervisors as a team leader, rationalizing with them and probably thinking aloud, thinking out of box, thinking in bold black letters what is right and what is the not so right things to go around it. So that is what social work supervisors is all about. With this, I would love to come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching Supervisions. This presentation, I'm sure most of you have benefited exactly. Thank you, nevertheless.